So the question is, where do we go from here? And, could the Democrats and the Republicans find some common ground? I often am in Europe and in Asia Pac, and we talk about the difference between the United States and the issue we see in Europe today. And many will say to me, well, the U.S. is much better positioned because you've got a single currency, you've got a central banking authority that can impose the disciplines. All the tools are available to you. All you need is a little political goodwill or common ground to make that happen. And I'm inherently an optimistic person, but when it comes to my observations of Washington over the last 3 or 4 years, my optimism about the bipartisan agreements coming to closure and positive good have been somewhat dented. And I will admit I'm a little skeptical today. However, I don't think we have a lot of choice. And I think the time is coming where that fiscal cliff is looming, and our forecast at SSGA for the U.S. economy in 2013, assuming normalized activity, so no kind of overlays, is that we'll continue to chug along and muddle through and maybe deliver 2.2, 2.3% GDP growth for 2013. If we do nothing and go into the as kind of law written scenario with that fiscal cliff, we believe that GDP growth will go to a negative 1.7-ish%. So almost a 4% swing, which would basically swing the U.S. back into recession. And I don't think even the politicians in Washington think that's a good idea. And I think when you think about the world today, we're really kind of in a three-speed world. We've got Europe, and we all kind of know the problems there, and I'll talk a little bit about what's going on there a little bit later. We've got Asia Pac, really driven by the fantastic growth we've seen largely in mainland China. And mainland China is trying to negotiate from kind of 8-9% GDP growth down into what they characterize as a soft landing, which would be in the 7 to 7.5% GDP growth range, which I think to all of us in this room, that would feel like a little bit of a great takeoff, not a soft landing. But they are worried in China, and I'll be there next week, and I'm in mainland China 3 or 4 times a year. They're worried in China about the risk to the downside, and they worry about that soft landing getting a little bumpier. So in the last 2 months, I think our optimism after the first quarter in the capital markets, clearly I think we think the risk have skewed toward the downside. And there is, much to worry about, at least in the U.S., assuming we get through the presidential elections. In an ideal world, we have some harmony between the executive branch and the legislative branch. There's some optimism that we can get things done because I think we'll be looking down a gun barrel. And if we're not sensitized to that and don't act on it, then shame on us.